Hello, and welcome to the Smart Industry webinar.
How to leverage manufacturing data analytics to deliver cutting-edge performance. Today's webinar is presented ShopLogix. A little bit of housekeeping before we jump into things. We are live now. The webinar has officially started. If you cannot hear me, please check to make sure your computer mute button is turned off. If you're still having problems, you can log off and log back in. And if you still can't hear me, you can contact tech support by typing your message in the questions and answers box on your screen. On that front, we'd love today to be a lively dialogue with our expert presenters. They are eager to answer your questions. So throughout the webinar, please do submit your questions with that questions and answer box there. And we will get those questions answered for you during the webinar or at the Q&A section in the back end. And if you're joining us on demand, we can get answers to your questions as well. Submit the questions in that same manner, and we can email you answers from our expert presenters. If you look on your screen there, you'll find an abstract of today's presentation. You'll see speaker bios for Nick, Rodolfo, and myself. The presentation slides are there. There is a solution brief from ShopLogix on manufacturing analytics software, and there is Smart Industry's latest technology report focusing on industrial networks in that handouts section there. Without further ado, my name is Chris McNamara, Editor-in-Chief of Smart Industry. Joining us today for the webinar are Nick Marchioli, Vice President with ShopLogix, and Rodolfo Moreno, Operational Excellence Manager with Mauser North America Metal and Fiber. Nick and Rodolfo, how you doing?
Very good. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing
Very
well.
Good. How are you?
Nick, let's jump right into it. Let's dive in here and explore how to leverage manufacturing data analytics.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Chris. So obviously you saw our pictures, so I'm going to kind of get right into the agenda. I just want to welcome everybody and thank you for your time and attention today. Also, a special welcome and thank you to Rodolfo from Mauser for his participation and input in today's discussion. Today, what I wanted to do is kind of focus on, the question of what's next. You're probably all sitting there going, what's he talking about, what's next? We haven't even connected our factories yet, and he's already talking about what's next. It's very true, but as manufacturers start to connect their factories, they're going to start to need to prepare and deal with the influx of IoT data that they're going to get and be able to leverage it and drive operational improvement and financial gain, which is really what we're all here for. So today what I want to do in the agenda is really focus on discussing that along with the challenges that people may encounter and kind of go through a case study with our friends at Mauser. So that's really the goal of today, so let's get started. And really, when we're looking at digital transformation, and we're all reading and learning about the benefits of digital transformation, however, there's a reality, I think, that all of us on the web session kind of realize about manufacturing that exists, and even embracing new and implementing new technology in manufacturing environments. And many organizations are finding it challenging to enable IoT technology and affect business change. It's just a difficult thing to do. In my many conversations with manufacturers, I've continually kept hearing some of the same obstacles and challenges, which are on the screen on the slide right now that we're going to kind of go through. And there are ways for organizations to look for technologies to help minimize these challenges, which we'll kind of go through. But by far, the number one challenge I hear from most manufacturers is just the lack of skilled labor when it comes to implementing these types of solutions. Especially for large organizations that have centralized organizations for IT, for engineering, and CI, it becomes very difficult to leverage these shared resources to really get the quality and data consistency across all your plants and facilities. Often the easiest way to really deal with this type of challenge is really around the control of the scope of your digital transformation initiative and look to technology platforms to help deal with the complexities of data connection, systems that don't require extensive amounts of machine data to deliver value, and really leveraging cloud-based solutions that help to minimize the IT impact. So there certainly are ways to overcome that skilled shortage. Obviously, you could always hire more skilled staff, which is great, but I know they're hard to find. Second challenge we hear from a lot of our organizations that we deal with are around standardization. As we all know, in manufacturing environments, deal with a variety of machines, variety of automation and systems that most manufacturers inherit over time, which really complicates the ability to connect to their factories. Again, this is one of those challenges that can be overcome with the scope of a digital transformation, but really limiting the level of connectivity to a base amount and then getting value from that, and then expanding to additional signals and data elements later in order to add more value. In addition, using a platform that has the flexibility to organize disparate data, linking data through common dimensions and groupings, dealing with multiple languages, those are all things that will help. And we'll speak to some of this later with our friends at Mauser and what they did. One of the third challenge that we often hear is just around adoption and just the use of digital technology. Many of the industry analysts have surveyed have said this is a challenge for a lot of companies where they're not really leveraging the solutions they put in place. We often look at people who implement these types of technologies really should be concerned about providing the right information to the right person so that it's consumed and in a way that they're used to absorbing data. So whatever technology you utilize really should be highly configurable, an ability to quickly deliver the right KPIs and dashboards and visualizations to the various roles in your plant. And that's a key part of any digital initiative. Another challenge we often hear is just the risk of any new technology project remaining as an island. So implementing a technology solution that does not communicate with the other systems in a plant, the other internal systems, and stands on its own is usually a good candidate for that system to become, abandoned and not utilized. So really the key to that is whatever platform you use to get your machine data, you integrate that IoT platform into your existing ERP, your MRP, your MES system, quality, whatever it might be. It's a very important part to ensuring the system is utilized, really part of the critical path of the operation. And systems that remain as an island can also fall into a state of abandonment, as we say, especially when you have employee turnover, executive change. That becomes a risk for those types of solutions in the future. So it's something you want to avoid and make sure you integrate. Fifth challenge we hear often from factories is just the ability to disseminate this information to the various supporting roles in the plant. So getting IoT data to logistics, to maintenance, and being able to do that easily through a platform that not only simplifies connectivity, but also simplifies the consumption and dissemination of this information to all the various roles within your plant. And cloud-based solutions are, a key for that because they just allow you to disseminate the information in many different ways to get the right data to the right people at the right time. And then finally, and this is kind of apropos with the times, right? I think most of you probably hoped you didn't hear the word COVID in the next hour, but COVID has created an environment where doing these digital transformations remotely is kind of part of the day-to-day now. So, hopefully COVID will be behind us soon, but I think the trend of remote management will continue, and this has further increased the importance of cloud solutions and just make it easier for people to see their assets and plants from anywhere in the world. And I know, we talked to Rodolfo about this, and Mauser feels the same way that, having that platform in place now just makes it easier to deal with just being able to review a plant and not have to be there as part of this COVID environment. So let's move on to the next piece. Let's start to focus more on the actual analytics side. Since a large segment of the manufacturing industry has yet to really fully connect their factories and are just starting their digital transformation, this might be a little forward thinking, but you should really start to think about what do you do next after you've connected, and it should be considered as a key part of your process. In our research, we looked at a couple studies, one from Deloitte and one from MIT, and really, with the Deloitte study, they spoke to over 300 business executives within the manufacturing sector, and a majority saw huge potential and insights gained from leveraging machine data. But the one thing they really noticed is that to do that, you have to really untangle the data you get from your machines because it's very detailed and at a very, detailed level, and elevate it into a higher business context. And once you've done that, then it helps them to actually leverage the information. So they really felt that having that analytics environment to do that and kind of translate that data to a business context was key for them. And with the MIT study, they spoke to over 3,000 operational executives. Many of the traditional companies in manufacturing are really starting to look at analytics and leverage them and really use them in a way that are usually reserved to the rights of Google and Uber, who leverage analytics to drive innovation in their organization, and I think manufacturing and industrial organizations are looking to do the same. When you look at analytics, what is analytics? Most companies, really, I like to break it down into 3 different categories. Performance management is one aspect of analytics where you're really looking at areas of your business that need attention in comparison to certain targets. So whether it's products, plants, how are they performing, so that kind of performance side of things. And then the second category we often see in analytics is around comparative analysis. So what kind of metrics are you looking at, whether it's OEE or production or scrap or whatever it might be, in relation to certain products? So comparing these metrics in relation to like processes in your business. So you want to make sure you're comparing it to same lines of business or same plants that run the same products versus disparate type products. So you're really looking to highlight anomalies and highlight opportunities within your business through this comparative analysis. And then the final category for analytics is really around trends and insights, is how do you use the analytics platform to determine where you might be finding opportunities or negative trends, or if you've implemented corrective actions, have you seen the desired output or improvement in those things? And this is going to be one of the key things we see in the Mauser case study on how they use their analytics platform to drive improvement. So with that, I wanted to kind of, before we continue any further, I wanted to get a general sense from the audience on really how important you feel analytics is to your digital transformation journey. So the 4 categories I have here are really, you're currently in the process of connecting your factory and you don't really consider analytics as a key part, or you're somewhere in the middle where you're connecting your factories and you're also exploring how to leverage analytics to get better insights. And then the 4th option is, you're looking to evaluate and implement analytics right now as part of your digital transformation environment. So if we can conduct a poll, if you guys can just answer and kind of categorize your company, that'd be great. So if you can assign where you think your organization fits, that's perfect. And let me, I guess, ask Rodolfo, now that we have you on the line, is, Mauser's been going through a journey over the last number of years to connect all their factories. Where did you feel analytics was a key part to your strategy?
Well, yeah. Thank you, Nick. Basically, it's the idea of visualize what's going on each site is when we saw one example in one plant, and we just wanted to replicate. And then talking, I mean, if you are involved in the continuous improvement, you always talk about standardization, right? So if you have something that is working in one site, you basically want it to replicate them everywhere. And that's what that's what the approach that we took. Yeah.
So it was pretty early on that as you started connecting some of your initial plants, you started realizing that analytics were very important.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then, and not just only that, we started doing in another site, and then see the good results, and then keep going.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, thank you. Well, I think the polls are in now, the results, and it looks like we've got a small percentage, around 17% of the environment or the group is really around not really considering. And then a good group in the middle section, and actually analytics being critical represents the other roughly 80% of the audience, which is great. So thanks for everybody for that. So kind of reaffirms, I think, what we're thinking is that most people do realize that it's an important part of their digital transformation journey. So we'll continue on. I wanted to refer a little bit back to the studies we saw with MIT and Deloitte. And MIT also noted in their study that organizations who rely on data consistently, or as MIT calls them, analytical innovators, were 50% more likely to actually drive operational improvement. And the other thing they noted with the companies they interviewed is that the more broadly they disseminated that information across their business, the better the results and the more likelihood they got of improving their or getting better improvements and getting better insights. The other study with Deloitte found that organizations were really looking to kind of turn a light on to their hidden factories and really drive transformation through exposing these details about their operation that they really only previously guessed or thought about or had hunches about. So combining IoT data with, from machines with their ERP systems and quality data, they're really looking forward to the benefits that will drive, as well as how it will help accelerate their operational excellence goals. And as an example of how companies are looking to integrate more IoT data into analytics is we had one customer in the food and beverage space. They produced shredded cheese as part of their product line, and they had our platform in place for a while and decided they wanted to introduce additional IoT data in the form of weights for their finished goods product. And they were trying to solve a yield issue where they were losing yield through the manufacturing process. And they basically went to look at getting this weight data for every package and implemented it into our analytics platform. And what they realized when they were going through this process is not that all machines didn't have the data available. So some just scales weren't able to transmit that data. So they made a decision to take the data they had and also augment the other data from other machine centers through operator input, and then drive their improvement that way. And then implement that data into their analytics platform where they were able to look at now weight data and loss, the yield loss by product, by shift, by plant, to further drive improvement. And funny too, our co-hosts at Mauser actually, they are looking to do the similar thing in their plastic drum division, where they're looking to take drum weights or container weights and determine that they're actually giving away plastic. And this is one of Rodolfo's counterparts that's looking to do this to drive improvements from that perspective as well. So it's just another way of looking at kind of getting and shining light into areas of your operation that you really didn't have visibility into. And I think the other good lesson in that is that, all these companies are often given the promise of IoT and AI being the panacea. But at the end of the day, many manufacturers are limited by the reality of what's available in their machine data. And so often they don't have the data available. So you often have to rely on a combination of machine data and manual data. And it's always a good start to go that way. It's also low cost. It allows you to still drive value and then use that value to drive further investment into your equipment and automation. So I think it's a great lesson to learn for most companies. So I'm going to start to focus more on the analytics side of things and what pitfalls people might run into when they're looking to design or deploy a manufacturing analytics environment. So as most manufacturers start to leverage their IoT data through analytics, they will need to consider these pitfalls because as you aggregate detailed machine level data to ensure that the analytics provides insight to the stakeholders of the business, you also have to consider other things like IT considerations. Since a lot of IoT data is stored at the milliseconds and seconds and minutes, while most analytics tend to be at the viewed at the hours, days, weeks, months, quarters, years, that type of level of data, you're going to have to transform that detailed data into another data structure for it to make sense for the business user and also to provide an effective and efficient analytics environment. So data structures in an analytic environment are very key. They're designed and optimized so that you can report on large quantities of data over large time frames. And this information is summarized for comparative analysis and long-term analysis. Also, this data model needs to be able to look at other elements or dimensions about the data that are not part of your machine data. So things like line of business, like region, like product family, like machine type. Those are things you don't find in machine data, but you're going to have them as part of your data model in order to really drive analysis and use at a business context level. The other pitfall some people get into is making sure your data model and your analytics are able to combine external data sources. So bringing other things in like customer data, cost data, and linking that with your machine data through these common attributes is another important thing that needs to be part of your data platform and your analytics environment. Another challenge we often run into, and it is often underestimated, is the idea of standardization. So, many organizations have hundreds of plants, thousands of machines, and you're going to have to combine this detailed machine data that is often very different from one plant to the next into your analytics platform. So you need the ability to create common groups, common language translation, common dimensions that allow you to aggregate this data and make sense of it across a variety. I mean, one example would be like if you were a global leader and you wanted to look at a dashboard across your manufacturing operation, and if you had 10 different languages coming in, it would be definitely hard to do. So you want to make sure that your platform allows you to translate that into a common language. If you have multiple types of the same machine, you want to be able to look at, say, a welder machine. You might have different types of welding machines across your organization. You want to be able to normalize that data to really compare like machines and data. So standardization is another key thing that people need to think about. One of the last things is really around the visual, intuitive, and interactive nature of your analytics platform. You need to be sure that it is interactive so that users are interested in analyzing the data and don't have to spend a lot of time getting up to speed and looking at information and driving innovation. So before we get to the discussion with Rodolfo, this is kind of just visually what an analytics environment should include when it comes to having a real-time layer of data that is separate from your reporting layer, which is optimized for reporting and analysis, and then making sure that you have the dimensional and business context layer on top that allows you to drive the true insights and decisions in your manufacturing operation. So we're going to get into some of the visuals of what that looks like in our manufacturing analytics platform, talk to Rodolfo on how he leverages some of this. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the Mouser case study and get Rodolfo involved in the conversation. And so really, Rodolfo, let's start with the actual operational goals that Mouser had and how the analytics platform is helping you drive some of those operational goals.
Sure. Thank you, Nick, again. Yeah, basically, as every other manufacturing operation is always, you go against the OE, right? You look for the KPIs and basically looking for savings. And so basically we have our OE goals, and knowing that every time that we increase 1 point of OE, we are saving, about $20,000-$30,000. And the process is something that it could help us to reach the goals, because then before, just like you said with manual data, it was kind of difficult to visualize where are we going or where are we standing. So yeah, that's mainly the thing.
So great. So basically the IoT or analytics platform is helping you guys attain your goals around efficiency improvement, which is also ultimately in turn also driving a profit improvement for the business. Sounds like that's what I'm hearing, which is great. The other thing I was going to ask you is one of the challenges we spoke about earlier, which is around skilled labor. So we know that you're a CI team of one for the steel and fiber group, and then you have a counterpart in the plastic group. So it's a relatively small CI team. You guys are managing across 24 plants in North America. How has the analytics platform helped you guys do your job a bit better and leverage the resources you have?
Oh yeah, definitely, it's a big advantage because just like you were mentioning, the ability to be able to visualize remotely, because we're not looking at the results that somebody sent me, right? It's directly the machine send me the data, and then I'm looking at I'm diagnosing the machine itself, and then if we go from the detail, I can go like really detailed to look at one machine, or I can go overall the plant performance, and of course it's easy to see how we are doing with scrap reduction, which is basically a big impact to the EBITDA, and then at the same time be able to see one side doing good on the scrap reduction. Is we have a similar machine on other side, say, oh guys, can we use this one? We share all the information, and then you can start looking the same improvement in other locations as well.
Right, for the same machine. So really, it looks like it's helping you not only in being at more places than one time, like so you don't have to be everywhere to get this data, but also even just the time you
Yeah.
spend collecting the data.
Exactly. And just like you said, the lack of skilled resources to support sometimes is critical, because just like you said, I'm not able to be there, in different places at the same time. And the very important part of what we saw in the analytics is that the very user friendly part of it, right? We have people that is mechanical skills. They have the machine skills, but maybe they're not like a very computer savvy, but the system is very user friendly, that they can go out there, they can go there and then input the data in a really easy manner.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay, that's great to know. So if we delve in a little deeper then on how, this next slide kind of looks at the actual flow of data in your platform between the actual machine, which is on the left, the IoT data, and as it flows through your plant from a shift, a daily process, initiates your action list, and then the management oversight through analytics. If you can maybe describe the last plant you're in, how the plants use this data to make improvements, not only at a tactical lower level through the PDCA process, but then also manage it through the analytics at a higher level.
Oh yes, yeah, and just like you have it on your slide, the data is coming straight from the machine, like I mentioned before, and we have all across the plant we have screens that are showing the data for the machine, so actually the operator can see how is he doing, because again, you can have people with experience that they have the feeling that they're doing good, but it's not how do you measure doing good, right? In this case, you have a screen right there that it says that every hour you're doing X amount of parts or X amount of final product, and then it can tell you, okay, this is your capacity, this is where you should be doing, and this is your target, and then you can see it right away, just visually, and that helps a lot for the if you go to the floor. For the team members at the floor, they know how they're doing, and at the same time, that data is compiling and is easy to the management to pull it in real time, and then okay, what's going on, right? And then probably at the end of the shift, notice like we have several issues, consistently every hour, and then that is very very visual, and you can see it. What we do is we have a meeting. Right before after the shift ends, and then we gather our people from team members from maintenance, from production, from the customer service, and everyone is looking at the data and then see, okay, what happened today? Did we reach the goal? We didn't. Why we didn't? Okay, this is what happened. We make a list. And then we can put really corrective actions, effective corrective actions. Because once you put it there, the next day you shouldn't have the same problem, and that's the way that we do. And then again, we just feedback the system, going back to the operator and the machine. And if it's a mechanical issue, okay, we fix it. And if it was a training issue or a process issue that we need to change, we just go ahead and do it right there.
Okay. All right. And then, so you kind of went through all to the PDCA process. The actual oversight now, and I know analytics is kind of just being deployed more broadly across all your plants, but does that get incorporated on a weekly, a monthly basis? How do plant managers kind of look at that to monitor if these things are actually making an impact?
Yeah. And then what the plant manager does is what they do is they basically pull the data, weekly. And this is another beauty of the system, right? You can set up alerts, so you can set up emails that the system is going to send you. Okay, this is if you send a daily report, you're going to get it, a daily report. So basically, you're not wasting time creating the reports every day. The reports are coming in straight to your email, to your inbox, and then weekly reports as well and monthly reports. So basically, the upper management is well informed in what is going on, and of course this is a great impact in cost savings, because then we know where we start spending the money, where we lose money, and what can we do to avoid that on the next week or the next month.
Understand. Okay. One question I had for you, because I've had other companies tell me this, is that sometimes they find it hard to get their operators to, and I find most operators are quite good at providing feedback, but does this closed loop environment where you have the oversight on the data you're collecting, some of it machine data, some of it manual data, does it help increase the adoption at the line and supervisor level?
Well, yeah, it helps a lot because again, right? You remove the I think I'm doing good, right? Once you put a visual, and everybody knows what is your expectation, right? You know, if you're running a machine, you know how many parts you have to do every hour, what the machine is capable to do, and there's no questions, right? If the machine it was down, you know, you have options to put, okay, what's the reasons the machine was down, and if you need help because the machine is down every hour for the same reason, right? Maintenance is there, you know, to really work as a team with production, because I noticed this in my experience in manufacturing. It's always a fight, right, between the guys from maintenance saying, oh, okay, no, that problem was caused by the operator, and the operator, no, that was caused by the machine. You remove all these inefficiencies, and instead of working, you know, you have two teams working against each other. You have only one team working together, and it's fantastic because there's no way to go around.
Gotcha. That's good to know. Now let's dive into specifically Woodbridge and kind of the improvement and how you use the analytics platform to basically pick that plant, and then, you know, I was curious because what everybody's looking at on the screen, the audience, is that's one of the dashboards that Rodolfo would use and his team would use, and I know it might be hard to see on your screen, but the Woodbridge plant is that plant on the left of 3 bars with the blue, black, and green. You can see the downward trend. So maybe you can describe, I guess, how you guys decided that, hey, Woodbridge is a problem, and you saw it in the data, and then your communication with the plant manager, were they accepting of this information, saying, yes, you're right, we are trending down, or did they disagree with the information?
No, again, like we said, you know, this system is based on the signals that we're getting from the machines, and of course the data that the operators are feeding into the system. Yeah. And of course the plant managers normally are agree with this. Is all the time is they believe in it, and what we do is as an operational excellence team, we are monitoring every single day the operations, and then when we see something like this happen, even though you see there like a trend, right? I mean, it's of course you see it now after several months, but we do this every month. I mean, every day, looking at the plants, and once we start looking at trend down, you know, that's when we call, okay, let's go there and see what's going on and what help do they need. And then we assemble a team, and we go there, and based on this data that we have, because of course already know before to go into Woodbridge, you know, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, but before to go to Woodbridge, which is in New Jersey, you know, I already know what machine is being giving us trouble, you know, what process is been giving us same issues. And then I can assemble a team beforehand. And then once I get to the plant, basically I'm ready. And then, you know, just to deliver to the plant manager.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah, and I have on the screen the kind of more of a micro view of like just November itself and the downward trend in Woodbridge. So you guys are looking at this on a more frequent basis and isolating these trends. Obviously, you could look at a larger macro level across multiple months and see the same kind of trend. So either way, you have the data to pick Woodbridge as your next initiative. So now when you did that, here you can see another view from your dashboard with regards to, okay, now that we isolated the trend as negative, we need their help, and they want our help as a CI team. I think you're saying it's pretty simple for you to have this already information before you even go there to say, we know your biggest problem is corrugator down.
Yeah,
is that how you basically approach it?
It's not right. Not exactly like that, but but basically what we go is, okay, before this, there's a lot of communications between emails, right? And that's the beauty of this. We have this issue, we identify something, we confirm by email or by phone call, hey, I know you have an issue here. Yeah, and everybody knows, okay, this is because of this. Everybody knows that we're waiting to get I don't know, in this case of corrugator, that was a very good advantage to know in advance, because then we start preparing spare parts if needed. We know the machine that is running in Woodbridge. We know the equipment. We have a very good mechanic here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, actually, it's in Harrisburg, North Carolina. And start working on let's start working on the spare parts. We call New Jersey. Do you have these specific spare parts? Yeah, some of them yes, some of them not. Okay, we can get it together, and then once we get there is basically implementation. And of course, you work with the team to make an analysis. Yeah, and I'm going to show you later on the next slides.
Yeah, the A3 that you guys do. So it sounds like you're involving not only multiple roles from the plant, but even other plants you're pulling, because of those skilled shortages or labor shortage, you're pulling people from all sorts of places to get resolution to these problems.
Yes, exactly. And not only, resources like labor resources, resources like equipment, because sometimes, okay, you may say, okay, this machine, in order to do this, we may need to do an overhaul. If we do that, okay, guess what? You need to buy another motor because something can happen during that overhaul. Okay, well, we don't have it. Okay, let's get it ready in case something happened, right? Because what you don't want to is to go there and then do an overhaul, and then once you put it all together, oh, it doesn't work. Oh, wow.
Be down for another week.
Yeah.
Not a good thing.
Yeah.
Not a good thing.
No.
Okay.
Not a good thing. No.
Okay. So it sounds like you have the local PDCA process for quick fixes, and then this A3 improvement event plan, or Kaizen as some people call it, is more for complex multi-department type solutions. That's
right. Yeah, the PDCS is more like the quick wins, and then when we see something like this critical, and everybody has an idea, but we don't know for sure what it is when we assemble the team, we go together, and then we get together, and then we create this A3 report that you're going to see.
Gotcha. Well, and then that probably leads you into this 5Y discussion that you get into. And I was curious about this.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have heard about 5Y and doing this fishbone analysis, but do you then, for you specifically, do you tend to look at the ShopLogic's data or the IoT data to validate some of the things that you're seeing here, the cause and effect, the analysis that you're doing in the 5Y? Will you use the data to validate some of those things?
Yes, exactly. Because again, this is part of the feedback that we get from our team members in the production floor, that they're constantly sending the reason. Okay, this is why I'm going down. This is why I'm going down. Once we get together and on these A3s activities, what we do is we put together the management and the team members on the floor, and then we create this discussion, friendly discussion, like, okay, what's going on? We see that we have this reason several times, and it looks like it can be a machine issue, or it can be a manpower, a training issue maybe, or a material issue. We see some cases that we don't even know that the machine is working as supposed to. The guys are doing what they're supposed to. They're following the work instruction, but then we notice, okay, let's check out the material too. Sometimes materials are coming in a bad way. Yeah,
that's true. Okay. Well, I know it's a lot of hard work that goes into these 3 slides that we're showing around improvement, but you obviously, the good part is when you actually make an improvement like we're seeing here. So this is that same dashboard, and now you're using it from a perspective, you're monitoring, are we having the desired impact? And as you see here, your reduction in corrugator went from 29% of the total lost time to 12%, and then you basically jumped OE to almost 65% on average from where it was sitting around 52%. So that's a pretty significant improvement.
Yes.
Let me ask you about this. The team, once they have this success, does it really motivate that team locally at that plant in Woodbridge?
Definitely, definitely. You're going to see more, and this is part of again, right? Like a cycle, right? They see the value of the tool, so next time they go to the machine and they have a downtime, again, they're going to put the right thing that is going on because they know that if they do that, everybody is going to react and try to fix it because we're there. Continuous improvement team of operational excellence team is there to help, right? Not to create more work. It's just to help. So
right.
when they see this kind of benefit, you see, okay, now now like a week ago we were talking about the corrugator, and now it's 12%. Wow! And then look at it now. Okay, now it's 43%. We have something else, and this is again, this is the continuous improvement. It never ends. So now it's going to tag that 43%. Yeah.
Okay, great. No, that's good to hear. So that's a great success. I think we're good on how you use the tool and drive improvement. One of the things, and I know it's kind of new to the analytics platform around driving more of the dimensional data and the classification of machines. So if you can just kind of describe how you think having the understanding of, okay, we understand the plants, the lines of business, we break down the processes or operations within welding, and then we also start to break down, within welding, what kind of models of welders do we have? What kind of types of welders do we have? And how do you think having that kind of analysis will help your CI engagements going forward?
Well, again, this is when we talk about standardization, right? It's not like you don't have like isolated machines, right? We have the same machine in 3 or 4 different sites, and then of course, when you see that, it's very easy to see. I mean, we can go by the capacity of the manufacturer of that machine, but in reality, it's just like you were mentioning before. The reality of the manufacturing world is that we need to look at it, what's going on, and not only in one plant. What's happening in other sites, and then this gives me the opportunity to see, even though with the same machine, what are the differences, and then we can we can implement another type of analysis, and of course it helps a lot because it's not only that we have one similar process, but at the same time, okay, what is behind that process and what is after that process that it may be making the change. So that's a real quick tool in order to identify an issue, right away.
Right. Question. This is kind of maybe outside on left field, but have you ever thought about using this data to go back to Corando on, when they sell you a new welder and it doesn't perform according to the specs, would you use this information, or have you used this information to go back and say, hey, we either need financial compensation or you need to provide more help? Have you done that yet?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because actually just in the past year, we went to, it was not a Corando, it was a REMI testers. And if we start working with the REMI testers, and that's been, a long time before ShopBlades was fully implemented in all sites. REMI tester was a pain for most of the sites. But then we implemented one here in Harrisburg and started looking at the data, and then we noticed, okay, what happened when we changed this product? When we changed this product, it gave us this failure. So we went back to the vendor, and then they did some changes because guess what? We were planning to buy another 3 machines, and those 3, the next 3 machines, they got the upgrade already. So it was a fantastic finding because we save a lot of downtime for the next machines, and it's something that it was involved in the design of the machine. So nothing that we can do, right? So yeah. So basically,
but that's very
helps a lot
story.
in all the ways.
For sure. Yeah. No, that's a very interesting story. So I think we're coming to the. Well, actually, no. Before we get to the end, we're looking at this thing was about what's next after connecting your machines. So for Mauser, what do you think some of the next things that you're going to start to do to leverage the platform, not only from a real-time perspective, because we talked about work order integration, and then also from an analytics, is looking at getting the burden rate or cost information. Are those the two key things that you guys are thinking of doing next? And maybe describe how each one might be helping you.
Well, yeah, basically this is what we talk about. We've been talking about this to implement, a link with a QAD system in order to feedback the system itself, and all of this, of course, another link that we really wanted to do is to start following really close with the scrap and everything that is involved with the cost, because at the end of the month it helps a lot to visualize what is the financial impact when we do continuous improvement, and the way to measure it is with this tool.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Well, thank you. So I think we've got a few of the lessons learned that you've provided us. Maybe just in order of time, because we're getting close to the 15-minute stage, is which one do you think of these 5 were probably the biggest impact for you guys in your analytics deployment? Which one do you think was the most important?
Well, the most important definitely is the operational data to the financial impact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps drive more improvement because you see the financial impact of what you're doing. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, yeah, go ahead.
No, I get it, because I think we talked about that. So it just obviously provides almost like an exclamation point on what the improvement actually gives back to Mauser, which is very important for everybody to know.
Yeah.
So I think I originally planned to do a demo, but I know we're getting short of time, so we won't do that. And I think what we'll do, Chris, is if we can get back to questions from the audience, then we can wrap that up before within the hour.
Yeah, for sure. And Nick and Rodolfo, very interesting stuff. I'll let you guys catch your breath for a moment as I remind the audience again, we're going to enter the Q&A section right now. So please do submit your questions with that Q&A box on your screen there. We'll pose them to our presenters. If you're joining us on demand as well, you can submit those questions and we'll get the answers to you via email. I love the 2 messages that jump out at me from the presentation are aligning what you're doing with this data with the larger business strategic goals. That makes all the sense in the world. Oftentimes people get into these projects and they don't really connect what they're trying to do with the end result, and it's critical to maintain that, keep it top of mind. And then also, like as you touched on at the beginning of the presentation, Nick, the making sure to entail the human element. It's the people involved with these processes, as digital as they are, that are going to make or break the success of these things. You got to keep in mind people implementing all these things. So again, attendees, please do submit your questions. We have a handful in the hopper right now, and we are going to get started. Do submit your questions with the Q&A button. We'll go first. I think this one is for Nick here. Question is, what asset data is the most important to collect and analyze when starting initiatives like this? What data is most critical?
Yeah, I think most manufacturers, in my experience, kind of start with knowing it's all about the production, how many widgets that I produce, and that is usually the easiest thing to start with. So I would advise for many people that if you just focus on the throughput and the parts that you're producing, and make that a consistent thing across all your assets and start there, drive improvement, then that's probably the first step. The problem that a lot of people fall into is they want to connect, 10, 20, 30 pieces of data from their machine. And as you start to expand that across other machines, it just gets harder to deal with.
Yeah. And that's probably a pretty simple data point to be able to understand if you're taking first steps into this is throughput, right?
Exactly.
Prior to these initiatives, I made X number of pieces per shift, and after this, it's X2, and so that's a good way to kind of simplify the process.
Yeah, something everybody's familiar with. With.
And that aligns with the larger business goals as well, too. Another question here. Could your organization be as effective in driving improvements without a common analytics platform in place, and why could that be? Could your organization be as effective in driving improvements without a common analytics platform in place, and why?
Well, why don't we throw that at Rodolfo? Do you think you would be effective, I guess, without the common platform, Rodolfo?
Well, is with a common platform, you mean?
Yeah, like having the same system across all your facilities and machines. Would you be as effective
Yeah,
if you didn't have
definitely
that?
definitely that's an advantage to have the same system. Yeah.
And why is that, Rodolfo? Why is that advantageous?
Well,
does
basically,
it aid communication? Does it democratize the data?
Yeah, because again, talking about standardization, right? Instead of talking, I'm going to put an example, right? Like a scrap, you can call it one way here on the same part, but maybe in Houston they call it a different way, but it's the same. It is the same part. So when you're talking about the same part all across all your sites, it helps a lot to identify and to standardize. And actually, Nick mentioned before, right? Like about you may have some places where you have different languages, so you can put you can use this tool as a standardization tool as well, because now we call it we call it the same. Yeah. Okay,
that makes sense. We've got another question here. Again, I'll ask the audience if you have a question. We have just a few minutes left, but do submit it with the Q&A box on your screen there. We'll get them posed to our presenters. This comes from Lorian, who asks, how do you think to overcome the roadblock of having outdated equipment and connecting those brownfield assets to new technology? How do you retrofit with these approaches?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because, I've seen many projects kind of fail and go awry when they decide that they want to upgrade all their old equipment with new automation, new PLCs. And it ends up taking a lot of time and costing a lot of money, and then everybody gets tired of the project that never ends and costs too much. So I think there are certainly key ways with many of the solution providers out there that allow you to quickly and easily connect to a machine with a I/O device of some sort that you can easily connect through Wi-Fi and LAN. It kind of goes back to the first question, though, Chris, is in those environments where you have outdated machinery, you want to be careful not to try to bite off too much and get too much data. So let's start simple with the amount of connectivity. Realize a value and an improvement, and then use that to justify more spend to increase the automation of that machine.
Yeah.
So I think that's the best way to approach it and the quickest way to approach it.
And the vast majority of these implementations are on old assets, right? I mean, I rarely hear that we have a brand new facility with brand new machines and everything comes with, smart technology built in and all we have to do is turn it on. I mean, that's never the case.
No. I've not seen it yet. 15 years in counting, and I've not seen that yet.
Someday.
Yeah, someday.
Another question for you here. In what ways can you see using analytics insights to help in strategic decisions? Again, this goes back to the strategy, I think, here. Smart ways to use analytics to really inform smarter, broader strategic business goals, business decisions.
Yeah, I'll tackle that first, and then maybe I'll ask Rodolfo for his input. But one thing I started to talk to a lot of our clients about is capacity decisions. So if you're a leader of an enterprise that has multiple facilities dealing with multiple customers and product lines, is being able to look at the available capacity of your equipment wherever and determine if you have available capacity that you might be outsourcing, can you relocate that to a different plant where you actually have capacity? Or, sad to say, sometimes people need to shut facilities down because they don't have the volume. But those are strategic decisions that can save organizations a ton of money. And I think the capacity decision through an analytics platform is going to be a useful tool for many companies. Rodolfo, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, let me tell you, there's a good exercise that we do in this case. When you have a machine and you have you can measure downtime on that machine. Basically, you can translate that on how much I'm spending on my mechanicals, right? On my mechanics, on labor in a year. and then I can make a decision. You know what? It's better to buy a new machine instead of spending thousands of dollars every year in hours of downtime.
Oh, okay. That's a good point. So using it for machine justification.
Yeah, machine justification, exactly.
Interesting. We're running low on time here. We'll give you one last shout out. If you have a quick question to submit, do it now. I'll remind the attendees here to access the presentation slides in the handout section. There's a solution brief from ShopLogics there on manufacturing analytics. There's a new tech report from us, Smart Industry, on industrial networks. If you're attending the webinar on demand, you can submit questions again via email. We'll get answers for you. And unless anything else comes in right now, we had a question about kind of logistics here. Will the presentation be available after the webinar is over? Yes, it will be. It'll be available on demand. You can access it that way, should you choose, kind of Netflix model. And we have one last question here. Quickly, gentlemen, does AI play an instrumental and fundamental role in the development of data analytics? How does artificial intelligence factor into all this?
That's a very good question. Again, I think I made a quick comment about AI and IoT kind of being a little panacea that a lot of people are talking about. And I think it will become a huge part to analytics in the future. I just have yet to see an environment where you have the amount of data you need to really drive effective artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
The models are there, everything's there to do it, but I think the sources of data that you have to support those models is not readily available yet. We've started to work with some partners ourselves around AI models and developing that, but I think it's still, I'd say, just a couple of years out to really where it's repeatable and demonstratable on a reliable basis.
Yeah, very exciting, but difficult currently to implement. Nick with ShopLogics and Rodolfo with Mauser, thank you for joining us today on the webinar.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Gentlemen.
Thanks, Rodolfo.
Yeah,
thank you.
Very interesting stuff. Attendees, thank you for joining us today. ShopLogics, thank you for sponsoring the webinar. When the presentation ends here, there'll be a quick survey. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the webinar. And in closing, as always, we remind you to go out and make it a smart day.